Philippians 2, verse 7. Kenosis. He emptied himself, divested, poured out. The theological question: emptied of what? You cannot cease to be God. But then Mark 13:32. But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. The Son, the second person of the eternal Trinity, did not know the date of his return. Explain that without the kenosis, costing something real. He who spoke the galaxies into their addresses didn't know the date. He who counts the hairs on every head, I don't know, you'll have to wait. He who formed the infant in the womb grew in wisdom year by year. Luke 2:52, he increased, which means the God of all things had room to clear. Not a disguise, not God in a human frame while running everything behind the curtain, but a genuine limitation, a real not knowing, a real fatigue at the well mid-morning, a real thirst on the cross, not theatrical thirst, not the performance of a need. The word made flesh and the flesh had need, and the need was real indeed. And the classical tradition says two natures, one person without confusion. The human nature's limits don't impair the divine nature's knowing and conclusion. But then explain Mark 13:32, not even the Son. And the orthodox answer requires some careful parsing to get done. He emptied himself of what exactly? The glory, yes, the form of God made publicly invisible. But Mark 13 is harder than the glory questions answer. A God who doesn't know the day or hour is a different kind of scandal. Kenosis, the self-emptying is not a metaphor or frame. Kenosis, the word became flesh means the word accepted limitation in his name. Kenosis, not less than God, but God is less than what God had the right to come as, and chose this anyway. The 19th century Kenosis said Christ laid aside the relative attributes, omniscience, omnipresence, omnipotence for the incarnate state, and retained the moral character, holiness, love, the will's direction, which makes the incarnation a real descent, not just a visitation. The classical response says communicatio idiomatum, the natures communicate. The divine person weeps humanly at Lazarus. The weeping is real, and the knowing of all things operates within the single divine person through both natures simultaneously. The union is the key, and both traditions are wrestling with the same impossible passage. How do you be fully God and genuinely not know the date of your own return? The kenosis is the place where Christology cannot be made clean, and every clean solution costs something the text itself won't confirm. Edwards wrote, the excellency of Christ is precisely the condescension. That the infinite would take the finite form is not a loss, but a demonstration of the fullness that is so full it can afford to be made small, without the smallness diminishing what was never bounded to begin. O'Connor wrote to the almost blind, you draw large startling figures, and the kenosis is the large startling figure drawn for the heart of seeing God small, God tired, God hungry at the well, God weeping at the tomb, God asking from the cross why he's been forsaken by himself. Not the metaphor of God, the actuality of God made flesh, and the actuality caused something that eternity will spend forever marveling at. That the one who needed nothing chose the form of need, and the form of need became the form of love that nothing else could show. He emptied himself, taking the form of a servant. He emptied himself, coming in the likeness of many. He emptied himself, and in the emptying was the most full expression of the fullness that the fullness could have given. He emptied himself, and I am still trying to hold what that cost.